Kazuo Iwama was a geophysicist. To Morita's global vision and Ibuka's volatile imagination, he added the scientist's painstaking approach to research.
He was like the essential spirit of the Japanese. For example, he didn't use a lot of words. He spoke very little, but he could show you in a second the direction to take. I deeply respected Iwama-san. And in that sense, Ibuka-san and Morita-san didn't care whether someone was an engineer or not an engineer, a man or a woman, whether you wore weird sunglasses or had long hair. They didn't discriminate on the basis of appearance. They saw the essential person, and Iwama-san was exactly the same way.
Iwama's brilliance carried him quickly to the top of Sony. For 10 years before his untimely death in 1982, he led the development team that created the CCD, the electronic eye that became the key to all of Sony's portable cameras.
In the last years of his life, Iwama-san threw himself entirely, body and soul, into the creation and development of the CCD, the charged couple device. He devoted himself to the completion of the CCD with every ounce of strength he had. And after we had been in production for several months, I took a CCD to the cemetery, and I used some very strong glue and fastened it to Iwama-san's grave marker. Iwama-san, see what a magnificent product your CCD has become. Please enjoy how the world looks through it. And that CCD is still fastened to Iwama-san's grave. He was like a dynamo developing new technologies. His contribution to Sony was huge.
Norio Oga succeeded Iwama as president and led Sony's transition into the digital age. In 1982, in collaboration with Philips Electronics, Oga oversaw the creation of a new media standard, the compact disc.
Thomas Edison invented the phonograph in 1877. And somehow or other, we were determined to develop and bring to market a new media standard on the 100th anniversary of Edison's invention by 1977. But we encountered all kinds of difficulties and couldn't make it on time. In 1982, we finally succeeded in bringing to market the CD, our ideal approach to delivering software. When we began the development process, we had endless rounds of discussions with Philips about what to do to improve sound quality to the maximum. At the very end, it was time to decide how many minutes of music the disc should accommodate. When I considered all the varieties of music that were available on the market, I settled on 75 minutes. That would allow us to include even Beethoven's Ninth, which is his longest symphony. At the same time, if we had an hour and 15 minutes, we could record an act from almost any opera. Naturally, there were some of Wagner's operas where that wouldn't suffice. But with an hour and 15 minutes, we could record almost everything without cutting in the middle. To achieve that, we'd have to record at 16 bits. And if we were going to provide an hour and 15 minutes, the disc would have to be 12 centimeters, or there wouldn't be enough room. Originally, our discussions with Philips had all assumed 11.5 centimeters, but at the last moment, we both agreed that we should go with 12 centimeters. We spent an entire day discussing whether to use 12 centimeters or not. We were both that determined that this new standard would hold up and make us proud wherever in the world we might take it. And the result of all our efforts was what is known today as the compact disc.
As early as the 1960s, Morita had perceived the importance of software to Sony's future. This led to the acquisition in 1988 and 1989 of CBS Records and Columbia Pictures. A major challenge facing Sony in the 21st century will be to integrate its hardware and software assets into new domains of total entertainment business.
I think the network is very important in coming 10 or 20 years. And the Architecture Lab's mission is tightly connected to that, the importance of network in our future business and future activities. And Sony has already very nice, excellent contents, movies and music. And also we have developed various excellent technologies. In the future, these two kinds of assets will be integrated. And we think Architecture Laboratory can play a very important role in these integrations.
Building from his mission statement, Ibuka-san launched a cycle of technology. I call it the transistor electronic cycle. Sony has been riding that cycle for 50 years, but the transistor electronics industry has already climbed to its summit and is in its full maturity. Beginning about 10 years ago, we have the microprocessor, the computer, the beginning of the so-called digital age. That's when Intel or Visicom in Japan began manufacturing microprocessors, and that's been going on for some 12 years. The computer age is just beginning. Give it 10 more years to grow, and 20 years after that, it'll develop into a gigantic industry. Now, can Sony, which was a champion of transistor electronics, become the champion of this next microprocessor cycle? That is the challenge in the true sense of the word. We have ample time for this to happen. I want Sony to consider carefully our traditional strengths and new areas of attack, and then for all of us to move on the target together. That's regeneration.
To fuel what he calls Sony's regeneration, Nobuyuki Ide wants to renew the company's connection to the childlike capacity for curiosity and wonder, which are at the heart of the founder's spirit.
The most important thing, I always tell my people this, is not losing your curiosity. I am made of curiosity. I'm always asking, what's this? What's that? Children always say, what, or why? Gradually, as we grow up, everything becomes ordinary. When you begin taking things for granted, it's all over.
Ibuka-san knew that if an engineer was to really apply his skill, he would have to create the kind of workplace where the job was as challenging and as enjoyable as it could possibly be. That's what he meant by a joyful, ideal workplace. And that became the fundamental spirit of the Sony engineer ever after. Truly enjoying their work, not that it was ever easy. The goals we were given were always as hard as they could be, incredibly challenging goals. But meeting those challenges head-on, and the exhilaration of completion, the joy. Under Ibuka-san, we all learned to understand that this was the engineer's joy, and that was what he meant when he wrote, a joyful, ideal workplace.
Ibuka was a transistor kid. Morita was a Walkman kid. Oga was a compact disc kid or a mini disc kid. I thought about what our role should be, digital dream kids. If everyone thinks that way, the direction of this next generation will be clear. So we should all behave like digital dream kids. Our engineers, our salespeople, the model for everyone in the company should be someone whose eyes light up with excitement about digital technology. Now, a digital dream is also a basis for technology that's easy to understand. Digital Dream Kids expresses our corporate culture perfectly.
Times have changed since transistor kids like Nobutoshi Kihara delighted Ibuka with new creations before he asked for them. The question is, can that same level of excitement and innovation be sustained inside a global Sony?
When a company is this large, it can turn into a government. People worry it's no longer possible to make a contribution individually, but that's not so. If there's passion, things can really happen. I myself try to set an example for everyone of throwing myself into things heart and soul. For us, passion must be the basis of management.
Since Ibuka-san and Morita-san's time, the technology infrastructure has changed profoundly. But I don't feel the mindset has to change that much. In other words, in the age of the computer network, the engineer still has to throw himself into it, to sit down at a network terminal, to go online in the internet, and to experiment in the spirit of fun and discovery. The goal is to be in front of the culture as it moves. The trick is still to become a focused customer, a customer who is surrounded by the culture or by the technology on the cutting edge of the times. Becoming a serious customer is still the most important thing.
The structure of the organization has changed in many ways, but fundamentally, Ibukaism is still very much alive in every department. It's just that in these times of extremely rapid change, because the advance of technology itself is swift, bringing out a Walkman or a Discman, the way we once did becomes much harder. Coming up with new ideas is much more difficult. However, I have total confidence that every one of our engineers understands Ibuka-san's passion, and I am certain that a new flower of innovation can blossom at any time. If you are gifted, whether you are an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, there is an atmosphere inside our company that will allow you to grow as fast and as far as you can. Since we've become a very large company, there are bureaucratic aspects of every one of our divisions. Still, we have plenty of what has always made Sony unique. There are many unique people here.
Sony is based on the ascendancy of the individual. The individual is more important than the organization. In fact, the company is huge, which makes it all the more critical that the individual have space to breathe and grow. I want real examples of meeting a challenge leading to success. So if someone comes to me and says, with passion for his work, that he wants to do this or that, he can have the freedom he needs. He can form a new business, assemble the people he chooses to help him. I want that kind of creative passion to produce hard evidence of success throughout Sony. This cannot be done organizationally. We need the examples. If someone in passion comes to me, I'll help them do whatever they want.
The digital age is full of challenge, but the voices of Sony are confident. They reaffirm the founder's dream of an expansive, joyful workplace where dedicated engineers are free to grow and flourish. Clearly, the founder's spirit lives on.